When you don't know how to use an elevator, aliens in the city. Living in the city has always been a real challenge. But not, it seems, for the inhabitants of Earth. When a spaceship carrying two aliens, Glurg and Siebel, crashed and landed right in New York City's Central Park, adventures began to rain down on them like hamburgers at a late-night diner. They were ready for anything: traffic, noise, long lines for coffee. But what proved to be the most difficult mystery for these two space guests? An ordinary elevator. Glurg, tall and covered in purple scales, and Siebel, bald, with huge eyes and 5 arms, stood in front of the gleaming metal door. Their ship had crashed into a skyscraper antenna, and now they needed to get to the top floor to fix the emergency beacon. Glurg, it's some kind of magical device, Siebel whispered, stretching out one of his many hands and poking gingerly at the door. It's not magic, Siebel. It's a technological advancement by humans, Glurg replied, adjusting his hat that read, I Red Heart Earth, that they had picked up in the park. The door suddenly opened. Inside was a woman in a bright yellow dress with a cloud-like dog. Well, are you coming? She asked irritably, looking at the aliens as if they were part of the set. Glurg and Siebel stepped inside. What's next? Siebel whispered, looking back at the button panel. The woman in the yellow dress pressed the button with the number 15 on it, and the elevator began to move. Glurg shrieked, grabbing the wall. This is an earthquake. We're doomed. He shouted in panic. Calm down, Glurg. It's just a vibration of space. I read about it in the Intergalactic Traveler's Handbook. But Siebel decided not to take any chances. He pressed the red button with the bell icon on it. The elevator stopped immediately, and a voice from the speaker asked, "What is your emergency? We don't know what's going on. Where are the gravity stabilizers?" Screamed Siebel. "It's just an elevator stoppage, sir," replied the voice calmly. The woman in the yellow dress rolled her eyes. "If you don't get your sticky fingers off the buttons, I'm calling the police. This is a misunderstanding," Glurg ranted. After they apologized and tried to figure out which button led upstairs, Siebel accidentally pressed a combination of all the buttons at once. The elevator began to open and close chaotically on each floor. On one floor, a man in a business suit entered the elevator. "Is this some kind of joke?" he muttered as he saw Glurg trying to use his head as leverage to stop the movement. "We are studying the culture of Earth," Siebel replied with a serious look. "It's your national game, isn't it?" The man sighed heavily and exited on the next floor, preferring the stairs. The elevator finally stopped at the 13th floor, even though the aliens had chosen the 25th, Glurg asked in surprise. "Why is it so quiet in here?" "It's the 13th floor," Siebel whispered. "People are afraid of that number. It's a primitive superstition." They decided to leave the elevator to explore the floor, but soon realized they were lost. There were mirrors everywhere, creating the effect of an endless corridor. "Is this a portal?" Glurg asked, gingerly touching a mirror. "No, just a trap. Let's run." With great difficulty, they returned to the elevator. This time Glurg refused to touch the buttons, and Siebel swore he would only study one at a time. Luckily for them, there was a cafeteria on the 25th floor. They met a cook named Bob, who explained that an elevator is not a weapon, it's just transportation. "What's a sausage?" Siebel asked, pointing to a hot dog on a plate. "It's food." Siebel breathed a sigh of relief. "Good. I thought it was an Earth elevator in miniature." At the end of the day, the aliens learned how to use the elevator, tried the hot dogs, and realized that Earth was not a place for the faint of heart. But most importantly, they left a cryptic message. Elevators may be complicated, but Earth food justifies everything. Glurg and Zeeble finally made it to the roof of the skyscraper, where their wrecked ship dangled off the edge like a poorly attached holiday garland. The beacon that needed fixing looked relatively simple. "I'll hook up the power unit, and you make sure no humans get in here," Zeeble said, pulling a device from his pocket that looked like a giant plug. But unfortunately, their elevator adventure caught the attention of a local news reporter, Jessica Flynn. She was downstairs with a cameraman, pointing her camera at the alien ship. "This is just sensational, Bill," she said excitedly to the cameraman. "For the first time in New York history, we have aliens." On the roof, Zeeble was fiddling with wires, and Glurg, wanting to relax a little, decided to try some primitive earthly entertainment. He spotted the parapet of a skyscraper and started bouncing up and down to test how Earth's gravity worked at altitude. "Zeeble, this is fun," he shouted, bouncing higher and higher. "Are you out of your mind? That's the edge of the building." Zeeble squealed as Glurg smacked the wing of a news crew drone that was circling nearby. Jessica below only gasped as the huge purple alien, waving his arms, nearly slid down. "Attention, this is not a prank," she shouted into the microphone. "The alien is on the roof." By the time Zeeble fixed the beacon, a crowd had already gathered outside. People were filming what was happening on their phones, police officers were trying to talk the aliens into surrendering, and one guy was selling hot dogs, loudly proclaiming, "Hot dogs for aliens. Discount today only." "Glurg, this is the worst day of my life," Zeeble moaned, looking down. "What do you mean?" "We explored elevators, ate sausages, and even became TV stars," replied Glurg, taking another leap. But trouble was close at hand. The beacon installed by Zeeble went too powerful, and a wave of energy cut the power to the entire building. The elevator stopped, the people below began to panic, and Jessica shouted into the camera. "We live in an age of alien technology, but they clearly aren't familiar with our safety standards yet." As the crowd began to demand that the aliens fix everything, Zeeble realized it was time to act. "Glurg, this is our chance to be heroes. If we fix the power, people will stop being afraid of us. Or burn us if we make things worse," Glurg added grimly. Nevertheless, they made it down to the first floor with the help of a rope that Zeeble had improvised from his shirt. The crowd parted, giving way to the two strange creatures. "We'll fix it," Zeeble said solemnly, "but we need what's it called?" "A screwdriver," said one of the engineers. 10 minutes later, the power came back on, and the elevators started working again. The crowd applauded, and one child exclaimed, "Aliens are cool." By the time Glurg and Zeeble finally ascended back to their ship, the crowd saw them off with applause. Jessica even asked for an exclusive interview, but Zeeble just waved his hand. "Our time on this planet has come to an end," he said, looking at New York one last time. "But we will remember this strange and fun civilization." Glurg looked down, noticing the hot dog he'd never gotten around to eating. "You know, Zeeble, we should get back here. But next time, I'll learn how to use this, what's it called? The elevator? Yeah, that elevator of yours." And with those words, their ship took off, leaving behind only fond memories for the New Yorkers and one downed antenna. Although Glurg and Zeeble left Earth, their unexpected appearance left a mark on world culture. New York City has seen themed souvenirs, alien figurines, t-shirts that read, "The elevator is a weapon of mass destruction," and even Glurg-styled hot dogs with purple sauce reminiscent of the space visitor's skin color. Jessica Flynn released a documentary called Aliens in Manhattan that was a hit. In it, She detailed how Glurg nearly fell off a skyscraper and Zeeble tried to fix an elevator with his fifth arm. But the most surprising thing was that people began to see elevators as a symbol of intergalactic interaction. A flash mob was started on social media, with people making videos of themselves learning to use elevators like aliens. Meanwhile, Glurg and Zeeble returned to their home planet of Flargonia 7. They thought their adventures on Earth were in the past, but that wasn't the case. When they stepped onto home soil, they were greeted by the Intergalactic Research Council. "You've made a real mess of Earth," began the chairman of the council, a stern-looking alien named Drog. "We've seen everything through their television sets." But we fixed the elevators," Zeeble tried to justify himself. "And we left our ship in New York," Drog shouted. "They think it's a landmark now. Tourists take pictures with it." Glurg looked nervously at Zeeble. "We left the lighthouse for the ship to return to, didn't we?" Zeeble hesitated. Maybe I mistook it for an automatic light show generator." Drog clutched his head in despair. "Now Earth thinks you sent them a signal of friendship in the form of fireworks. The council has decided, Glurg and Zeeble must return to Earth to retrieve the ship and finally explain to the humans that the aliens have no intention of putting on an intergalactic circus." "Back to New York again?" sighed Glurg, checking his suitcase with the hot dogs he'd bought before his flight. "Yes, but no elevators this time," Drog said sternly. When they landed in the same Central Park, they were immediately surrounded by crowds of people. Some brought them gifts, caps, hot dogs, and even toy elevators. "Why do they love us so much?" Zeeble asked. "Probably because we showed them that even super-intelligent beings can get confused by simple things," Glurg replied, wiping away a tear. They quickly made their way up to the roof of the skyscraper, this time using the stairs to avoid any more problems. Taking their ship and making sure it was working, Glurg and Zeeble turned to the crowd gathered below. "Earthlings," Zeeble began, "we value your friendship, and we want you to know that you are amazing beings." Glurg added, "But please make your elevators easier. Also, add hot dogs to the space menu." The crowd laughed happily and applauded. As the ship took off, words made up of lights lit up the skyscraper. "We'll be back. Perhaps." Years have passed, but the story of Glurg and Zeeble has remained in people's hearts. Their adventures have inspired movies, books, and even a beginner's course on elevator use. And somewhere far away, on Flargonia 7, Glurg sat on a couch, watching Earth news and eating a hot dog. "Do you think they remember us?" he asked Zeeble. "Sure they do. Are you sure we fixed everything?" Glurg thought for a moment. "Well, there might be one elevator left." Their laughter echoed throughout the room, and outside the window they could see the big planet Earth, where they would surely return one day.